Welcome back to America Decides. We're following a very busy day on Capitol Hill today, where lawmakers are preparing to vote on a 3-month spending bill as early as tomorrow in an effort to avert a government shutdown next week. Additionally, the Republican-led House Foreign Affairs Committee today advanced an effort to hold Secretary of State Antony Blinken in contempt of Congress. Nikole Killion, my teammate, is here to talk about all this and talk about more. Nikole, let's start off with the state of play for this looming government shutdown. We know they need a pretty high threshold now to pass this bill. What's the latest you're hearing?
Well, the latest is we still expect a vote on government funding in the House, a vote on government funding in the House on Wednesday in the House, and this is what we were expecting all along. But furthermore, we're expecting that could be part of the final rounds of votes in the House this week. They were supposed to be in session through the end of the week, but now it appears they may truncate that schedule once they get this government funding cleared. And certainly the Senate stands poised to move this bill forward. But it is still going to be a bit of a heavy lift on the part of House Republicans. You know, the Speaker had some difficulty just yesterday trying to get this measure passed through the Rules Committee, so much so it actually got pulled from the committee and will now be passed under suspension of the rules, which basically means that there's going to be a 2/3 threshold required for this vote, meaning that Democrats are going to have to step in and help Republicans out, which has kind of happened time and again with these continuing resolution agreements. And this is something that many rank-and-file Republicans aren't necessarily too thrilled about, particularly those further on the right who feel that the Speaker time and again keeps kind of bending to Democratic demands. But on the same token, there's certainly the general consensus that no one really wants a shutdown right now, right before the presidential election, considering this is the last week that Congress will be in session.
Yeah, so potentially pushing the bigger battle till December 20th before the Congress ends and before the new president takes over. So let's turn to Antony Blinken. On what basis are House lawmakers recommending this contempt of Congress finding?
Well, this is something, and you very well know this, Scott. I mean, we have seen many attempts on the part of House Republicans to hold various administration officials in contempt of Congress or to take actions against them in light of certain policy differences and disagreements. In this case, we know that the House Foreign Affairs Committee has been conducting an investigation into the withdrawal of Afghanistan under the Biden administration. They put out a report recently over this, but the chairman of that panel, Mike McCall, has been trying for some time now to get Secretary of State Antony Blinken to testify, and Democrats, for their part, too, want to hear from the Secretary of State. However, the invitation that was extended to him, and it wasn't an invitation, it was a subpoena for him to appear today, obviously is in conflict with what you heard our colleague Wei Zhang talk about, which is the UN General Assembly, which is where the Secretary of State is right now with President Biden. So for that reason, he could not be at today's hearing. And so that is why the panel moved forward with these contempt proceedings. And the Speaker also told reporters earlier today that certainly if this continues to advance, that it may be something that they take up within the lame duck session. But the Secretary, for his part, said, look, I tried to reach out to the committee personally. I tried to reach out to the chairman personally to try to reschedule, to try to find another date. The panel and the chairman, Mike McCall, on the other hand, feel that Blinken has been stonewalling them. Democrats on the committee are furious over all of this. They just feel that this process has really been politicized and is completely unnecessary.
Let's pivot over to the Senate and the presidential race. Vice President Harris today said she supports eliminating the Senate filibuster so that Roe versus Wade can be codified into federal law. We've got a question about that, but first let's hear from the vice president.
I've been very clear. I think we should eliminate the filibuster for Roe, and we need and get us to the point where 51 votes would be what we need to actually put back in law the protections for reproductive freedom.
Nikole, she didn't just say that. She said that to a targeted audience in a battleground state. What are some of the lawmakers saying on the Hill in reaction to that?
Yeah, well, clearly not the target audience in the sense that many lawmakers disagree with her, including some of her former Democratic colleagues. You know, we certainly have seen some of the more independent lawmakers like Senate Senator Kirsten Sinema, for instance, come out saying that this is short-sighted. She has been a staunch defender of using the filibuster and keeping that in place. As you see there, she calls it an absolutely terrible and short-sighted idea. Also, Joe Manchin was asked about this as well. He says that he doesn't intend to support the vice president in this presidential contest. He, too, someone who is a Democrat who has since now turned independent. So that being said, and of course, Republicans, for their part, many of them completely disagree with the vice president on this one and could likely use this against her. Many congressional Republicans paint the vice president as one of the most liberal senators. We have heard that from the former president himself on the campaign trail. So this is likely to be further fodder to add to their campaign arguments on the trail as lawmakers set to recess here this week.
At the U.S. Senate with us, Nikole Killion. Thank you very much.